Hi everyone, my name is Katie with Tierney Brothers, and I am here to talk to you about the Clevertouch panels that are going into your classrooms. So today we're going to go over just some of the basic hardware and the functionalities of the panel real quick. You will get a remote and you will get a couple styluses. We're going to start very basic by just turning on the panel. So I can either turn on the panel with this remote, which is this red button right here, or there is also a power button right here. So I'll turn it on with the remote right now. You will notice right next to this power button, there's a little round black button. That is the IR sensor. So if you are going to use the remote, you're going to want to be pretty much in front of the panel or slightly off to the side for this remote to work at the best. So once the panel powers on, it should power on within like 20 seconds. It's usually pretty quick. It's going to power up to the Android side of the panel. So this panel has a little bit of power without your teacher computer attached to it. So similar functionalities that maybe you would see with a phone or tablet. So basically I have a little bit of power without my teacher computer. And then when I connect my teacher computer, which you'll see a little bit later, I'm gonna have the full functionality as the same that I had in my classroom with my smart board. So this is the Android side of the panel. So this is gonna be your home screen. You'll also notice that I can adjust my volume, which is right here. So if I go right here, it'll bring up my volume button. So I can either adjust the volume this way or with my remote, right there. So we'll go over a few other buttons with this. Everything that, all the functionality of the remote is also on the panel. So if this ever goes missing or anything like that, you can get all the functionality on the panel as well. So the first I'm just going to talk about is the home screen of the Android system. So you'll notice that there's 3 arrows. The arrows on the left and the right side of the panel are both identical. So these are going to be your menu arrows. So if I select this one, it's going to be the same as the menu I just selected. This is going to depend on what side of the panel you'd like to facilitate from. The panel, or the arrow right here, is going to bring me up all of my inputs. So I can adjust my volume here, as I mentioned, that I could access everything on the panel without my remote. I also can change my inputs. So you'll notice the Lux is the Android piece, and then the HDMI 1, 2, and 3, and USB-C, and VGA. So this is where I can switch my input. The Lux that's highlighted with the blue dot right here is going to be the Android side of the panel. I can also access this menu with the input button right here. So I can select it right there, and it will come up either way. So I can either touch it on the panel or use the remote to access that. So the first thing we're going to go through is, on this side, is the whiteboard. So if I select the whiteboard, basically this is giving me a digital whiteboard. Similar to what I had with my dry erase board, but since I'm taking up some of that space, I'm giving it back to you digitally. So when I open this up, you'll see this home screen of the whiteboard. The first tool I want to talk to you about is if I select this hamburger over here, I'm going to move this floating tool up a little bit, I can change the background of this. So with selecting this hamburger, if I go under background, I have the ability to change the different colors of this. I also can change the texture, so maybe there's some different basketball courts, there's a baseball field, there's graph paper, there's line paper. Or if I want, I can bring in a custom image if I'd like. So I'm just gonna change this to the color, and whatever's selected, checked, and once I hit okay, there's my background. Now this background is gonna be this color until I tell it to be something different, so it's sticky. So meaning if I didn't want it this light green, I'd have to go back into background and change it. So I'm gonna stick with this light green. The panel is multi-touch. So it is 10 points of contact with either your fingers or this pen stylus. So the pen stylus gives me that same effect, so I can either do here or here. I believe you're also going to be able to use your smartboard pens that were taken from the classroom, so you'll have multiple of these pens. There's no power to this pen, so it's similar to your smartboard pen. It's just a prop, so if something were to happen to it, there's no power to it. They are magnetic behind the board, so you can kind of hide them back there, or if you have like a dry erase board right there, you could, not that one, you can keep it magnetized behind that. So the first thing I want to talk about is the pen. So you'll notice that it is multi-touch. So you'll notice whatever tool I am is what's highlighted right here. So you'll notice that the pen is highlighted. When I pop this open, it's gonna notice that I have my different pen colors, and then obviously I have 12 right here, and then if there's a color there that I don't like, I can just bring it over here and select my pen. So I have a pencil, a couple paintbrushes, and this is gonna be my line thickness right here. So once I've decided that's my color, so now I've changed my color from red to this purple color. So the pen is also sticky, so it's gonna be this purple color till I go back in and tell it to be something different. So that is the pen tool. Now to erase it, there's a couple different ways to erase. Intuitively, if I put my hand down, it becomes an eraser, like this. So now if I go like this with my fingers open, it thinks I'm a pen, but if I put my whole palm down, it becomes the eraser. Or my fist also works. You can also use, if they kept the eraser from your smartboard, works really well as well. Intuitively, if I put my hand down, I'm an eraser. I do have a few erase options right here. I have this old school eraser. If I select that, you'll notice it's telling me right now I'm an eraser. I can select something specific to erase. And then this trash can right here clears all my annotations. So it would just clear my whole board. And then over on the far end of this toolbar right here is your undo and redo. So this undo goes back about 10 times. So it won't go back indefinitely, but it goes back about 10 times. So that is your pen and erasing. This one right here with the A is your handwriting to text. So I have the ability to select this and I can write hello, and it will make my handwriting to text. If I tap this again, it gives me different colors to create that pen. So I don't have all the colors like I did in my pen tool, but I have a couple different options. So if I don't like black, maybe I want to make it purple, I can go ahead, change it, and you'll notice it'll change the color. Now it does make it this size all the time. So if you'd like it bigger, you can use this arrow button right here to select it. Once I select it, I can make it larger and I can move it around. So there you go. So that is your handwriting to text tool. This next one, it's the X plus Y with the underscore is your math equation editor. So it will do algebraic equations. I'm going to do a simple math problem because I am not a math major. But again, I can do so you'll notice I put 1 + 2 = question mark. If I put this question mark, it will auto answer it. So you have to put the question mark if you want it to answer it. So once I selected that's what I wanted to do, again, it's gonna always be this size unless I go in to select it, make it larger. But once I select this, it's going to answer it. So I can kind of unselect it. So basically there's some math equations. I've seen teachers put a couple different math equations up there and then they'll have their students come up and answer it. So students might come up like, okay, you're gonna answer this question, they'll answer it, now check if it's right. So you have to put that question mark for it to order to answer it. Again, the similar concept, if I select this open, it's going to give me a different color. So obviously I do not have to always default to black. I can make it different colors. And then if I select this, I can also make it larger and move it around. Like that. So those are gonna be those two tools. We've already talked about the eraser. This is clear the whole page. And then this one right here, it's the square with the circle, is gonna be your shapes tool. So when I select this open, if I select it again, it's gonna pop up and it's gonna give me 2- and 3-dimensional shapes. I also have the ability to change the color. By default, the panel just goes to black. So again, these are sticky as well. So when I select this color, it's going to be this light green till I tell it to be something different. So maybe I wanna talk about a triangle. So when I do the triangle, it's from when I release. So if this is how big I want it, then that's when I would release it. So it's gonna be this triangle till I tell it to be something else, if that makes sense. So I have 2-dimensional and then I also have 3-dimensional shapes. So here's a square, we'll make this one orange, we'll put this one up here. So this is really nice because it's really hard for sometimes students to kind of grasp what 3-dimension is. And then it's going to be, you can tell what tool it is by what's highlighted. If I wanted to talk about different angles, I would have to go back to my pen. It's set to that blue, I like that blue, or maybe I'll turn it to black. And I can say, okay, what angle is this? What angle is this? What angle is this? So I can come in and write. So whatever is highlighted, it's gonna show you what tool you're on. So that's your shapes tool. And again, I do have the ability with my select tool to kind of select this, minimize, maximize, move it out of the way. And you'll also notice I have 4 different colors here. So I can change the color if I don't like the color I selected. So maybe I want this to go back to black, and I can select it. So that select tool allows me to select specific images or icons in my note and move it around. The hand right here, if I select this, it allows me to minimize and maximize my workspace. It also allows me to move it, my whole workspace. So I can move it up, I can move it down, I can move it left or right. So basically it gives me an infinite workspace. So as like a math teacher, a lot of times they'd like a lot of workspace so they can show their whole math equation. So I can come over here, I can continue on with my notes. I can move this out of the way. If I select this hand again, it shows my whole workspace. So now I can come in and I can say, okay, remember when we were talking about step 1. So the few tools that pop up is this, the pen, the little A, the handwriting recognition, the math tools, your shapes, and then this one allows you to move the whole content. So the arrow allows me to move something specific, where the hand allows me to move my whole content out of the way. And then at the very end, we have undo and redo. Right here, you'll notice that there is a paint canvas here. So if I select this, what it is, for any art teachers, this is basically an art canvas. It's kind of oddly placed, so a lot of times teachers hit it by accident because it's right next to that undo button. But in here, I have obviously different paints, I have different paint brushes. Here's my line thickness. But you'll notice I can mix these 2 colors to make different colors. Basically, it's an art canvas. So this is kind of nice sometimes for those art teachers or indoor recess. Basically, when teachers hit this, generally they hit this on accident. To go back to that main screen, you're just gonna select this arrow up. So do you see how it's like placed in between like the undo and the hand? So sometimes teachers hit it often. So if I just select that, it goes to here, and I can get right back out of it by just kind of like a screen shade. So that's this toolbar. And then right over here in the corner is going to be your page sorter. So very similar to what you'd have a smart notebook or like a Google Slides. So I can add up to 50 pages of digital notes. So I can just add pages right here. You'll notice I have 2 different arrows that sorts through by different pages. But if I select the number, what it does is it gives me a pane. I can see all my different pages. So you'll notice I said that the background was sticky. So if I wanted to change this background to page 2, I could just go in and say, you know what? Now I need some lined paper. And I can have some lined paper. So again, if I add another page, it's gonna have that lined paper. So that's an overview of this. You will also notice that you have some tools right here, this finger tool right here. This allows me to activate whether I want 1 point of contact or multiple points of contact. Sometimes with the younger kids, it's very hard because when they lean on it, they'll have multiple different handwriting. So when I have this written, you'll notice that, if I selected a pen, it's no longer multi-touch. So basically, when this is selected, I'm killing the touch, so it's only 1 point of contact. When it's unselected, I'm gonna go back to my multi-touch. So that just is a little helpful tool, especially for the little ones. So if they just want 1 point of contact, it kind of cuts out the rest of them and gives them a single point of contact. I'm gonna go briefly back to the hamburger menu, and what you'll see, along with the backgrounds, you'll notice I can save these files. So I can save it a couple different ways. I can save via a USB port, so I could plug a USB port into the side of here. You'll notice that there's 2 on the side. Or I can save it directly to the panel. So if I hit save, it's gonna prompt my storage, and I can save these directly to the panel. So maybe if I wanna bring them up for my next class, or I wanna save it for a review, I can save these notes. So if I hit OK, by default, it's gonna time and date stamp it. I would change that to something that you can remember, otherwise you're gonna have to know exactly what was saved on that date. So change it to the name of a file that you'd like, and then just hit OK. And I'll show you where that's saved next. So leaving note, you can leave a couple different ways. I can hit this X button right here, and it'll take me out of there. Or, you'll notice when I open it back up, there's that X button. I can also hit this with this floating tool. You'll notice this floating tool is gonna follow me when we connect to our computer side, but you'll notice when I select it open, there's a home button. I'll go through these tools shortly, but there's a home button right here. So if I hit this home button, it also takes me back to the home screen. So the home button is like the home button on your phone or tablet. It always takes you back to the home screen of the interface of the Android. Next, after whiteboard, we're gonna talk about files. So when I select the files icon, you'll notice that this is where my storage is. Now we'll get into later, we can kind of create files if you wanted to go into a specific file for a specific class. But for right now, I just wanted to show you that I went to storage, and here is that file that I just saved. So when I open this up, the nice thing about it, all my pages are there, but it's completely live. So meaning I can come over here and I can put my hand down and I can erase it. So I can add to it and I can edit it and I can do whatever I want because it's completely live. So it's nice that you can build upon a file. Any changes that I made to the file, I would want to resave it. So if I wanted to resave this file, I'd have to go in and hit save again. So it's not like a Google Doc where it saves automatically. You'd have to resave any changes that you made to the file. So that is going to be your files. So again, when I hit this and I go home, so we went from whiteboard to files, and that's where it is. Now if I want to delete this, as long as it's highlighted, so if I highlight this and I go into my settings icon and I bring this down, I have a delete button. So I can delete this at any time. Are you sure you want to delete? Yes. So I can delete any content that I put on there just by highlighting it and selecting the gear icon and delete. So I can move any of that files out of there. And you'll notice that this will follow me anywhere I go. So you'll notice that I can move it. You'll also notice that if I put 2 fingers down and release, it follows me where I go. So it used to be docked on the sides, but it gave the teachers like that it was a little bit more movement. So you'll notice, I'm gonna go over the few tools in here. First, you have your home button that we talked about. The next one is going to be this pen tool. So this pen tool, when I select it, now these tools follow me everywhere I go. So on my computer side, I can use these tools as well, and I'll show you that when we move to your computer. But what will happen is that it puts this little floating toolbar on there. So very similar to what you've probably been using with Smart Ink. It puts a clear layer over the top of this. So it's almost like an old school overhead. And what it does, it allows you to annotate over any of these. So you'll notice that the pen color is red. I do have the ability to tap it and change the different colors. There's also a highlighter. So these pen colors right here, you can change them with this gear shift right here. So you can select up to 4. So some teachers, if you maybe you don't want red, maybe you want this purple, maybe you don't want black, you want this yellow. So I can change those pen colors now to, again, you have to be what you're highlighted. So I can change all those pen colors to what I wanted with this gear shift. You can also change the highlighter as well. It's over here so you can see it. And then this is going to be the line thickness. So that little gear changes these 2 pen colors. The next one is going to be, this broom is going to be very similar to the trash can on the note. It will clear all your annotations. So be very cognizant of that one because there's not an undo button. So if I put my hand down, so we're bringing back what we used in note, if I put my hand down, it becomes an eraser and I can erase something specific. So especially if you're writing a lot of stuff over like a PDF or maybe a website, if I select this broom right here, it clears all my annotations and I can't bring it back. So you want to be very cognizant to maybe just use this when you're erasing so you don't erase all your annotations. And then this button right here, you have the ability to save just like I did in my notes. So I can save these little screenshots if I'd like. It works really good for like an IEP or for maybe a student is out for the day. You can save these images and send them to them. And it's the exact same way of saving it. So I'm just gonna hit okay, and it's gonna save. This one, by default, it's gonna just save by the date and time. So you'd have to go in manually and change it. Once I hit this X right here, this becomes live again, meaning I can kind of toggle back and forth. I can open different files. So basically this right here, it puts a clear screen over top of it, so it's almost like I can't touch anything behind it. So once I hit the X, it becomes live again. So that is your pen tool. This right here is going to be zoom. So I'm not sure how often you would use this because the panel natively is gesture control, but you do have a zoom right there. So you have your zoom. This right here is your snipping tool. So this is a really nice tool, especially if you're using something like a website or something, you want to clip something. So maybe this is, some online curriculum. So this comes up and you can kind of adjust the sizes to it. So I can take a screenshot. You'll notice right here, it'll take a screenshot of the whole screen, or I can pick something a specific size. So maybe I just want a screenshot or image of that. I can save that image, or I can also, if I hit this little whiteboard, what it does is it takes this image and it puts it into Note. So this is sometimes nice if you want to bring different content into Note. So I can kind of bring it in, I can move it around, and then I can annotate over anything. So I can bring multiple things into Note as well by that snipping tool. You'll notice that this is not highlighted when you're in Note because you have a pen tool right there. So that's the reason why. So we have that tool, and then you'll also notice with this wrench, so you'll notice that this followed me from my files page to my whiteboard page. If I select this, it's going to give me, I have a timer, so I can set my timer. I also have, oh, that was a stopwatch. This is a timer, sorry. So you have a timer, you have a stopwatch, and then my favorite tool is the spotlight. So you have a spotlight, so you can kind of use that wherever you go. And again, these tools are gonna follow me over on my computer site, so I can use them as well. And I'll show you that, so I can scale it, so I can make it as big. I can also make it as light or as dark as I'd like. So maybe I want it to be a little transparent. And then again, to get rid of any of those tools, just select the X. And then the last tool right here, I'm gonna show you, is your Post-it. So this is nice if you're just kind of doing some concept mapping, you wanna bring some Post-its in here. You could bring multiple, so you don't have to bring just one. So you can bring some different Post-its in here, and then you can change the color of these Post-its. You can also make them a little bit bigger. And then as soon as you start to write, you can write inside of it. You cannot change the color of the pen, they're always going to be black, but these are nice as well. So you can add those Post-its. And then if you don't want them, you can just simply hit the delete button. The last thing I'm going to show you on the Android side, oh, and you'll notice that these Post-its will follow you. So this is nice if you want to have reminders up. It will follow you from screen to screen though. So just be cognizant of that. So it's nice to keep them up if you want to have like a little reminder, but it will follow me wherever I go until I delete it. So I'll delete this. So we went over whiteboard files. The last one I'm going to show you today is active. This is what is currently running on the panel. So what you can do is you can either X out anyone that you're not using, or you can simply clear up here and clear all your icons. So very similar to how you would clear apps on a phone or tablet. The rest of the icons right now are just not going to be used for the time being until we get up and running. They might be brought in at a later date. So now we're going to talk about going to your computer.